Hello, hello, hello. This is the Soul Gamer, and we are picking up right where we left off with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And some interesting trivia about this game. One of its big advertisement things was that it had what was kind of unique in that it had a very highly detailed face map for each cower, for each of the main characters. That being said, it was one of those rare instances where they actually had like really highly detailed character facial mapping for the characters. Like in the case of Buffy and the main crew, they did a very detailed scan of the of the actors' faces, which they would then use to map onto the models that they were using. Sadly, the hardware of the era just could not have done what they needed for the full detail mapping. But they were able to make it work a lot better than anticipated by focusing more of the processing power on the main characters and having the vampires be more generic in most cases. But yeah, Buffy's fighting style is so focused and strong that with good skills and knowledge of her fighting style, push broom. Now, if you're wondering why I'm breaking the boxes, it's because they actually do sometimes hide potions and stuff in them, though it's exceptionally rare. You mostly do it just to get more stakes for the fight. Not that I'm complaining, but I will say, while the voice work itself is good, it is somewhat limited. But you can see where they like for when this game came out, these were some of the best facial models they had in the industry. Making good progress. To be fair, if you did this, if you remade this game nowadays, one thing you'd probably do is take all the loading screens out and make the game one continuous stream. This is one of the. Isn't that interesting? And the team's all together. It's funny that Buffy has an entire move list. I forget who plays Xander, but he's like actually a really well known. I think he's like a really well known actor. God, the names escape me, but I know this guy. His name was Nicholas Brendan, and that was the first time I remember. It was the first time I remember seeing him was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but he's done shows like Criminal Minds, he's done Redwood, he did The Nanny, Judgment, Dark Web. He's done a lot of like bit parts and small time stuff. Yeah. You know, I really don't like her, and that's kind of the whole point of her gimmick is that she's meant to be completely unlikable. It is notable that the recreation of the high school is actually extremely good. Like, to the point where it's kind of scary how accurately they modeled the various parts of the high school. I mean, the fan base would want authenticity, and they nailed it. So, props to them. Okay, so the blonde British wanker is Spike, and the possessed girl is his love Drusilla, as you no doubt noticed. And apparently he's doing some demon lord's bidding because, well, I guess he has no choice because there's a threat. You had to open your mouth. So, yeah, level 2, welcome to the bronze. The in universe nightclub from the show, where a lot of the early season's big set pieces happen. Now here's where this gets interesting. I can't actually kill this thing. So yeah. Ooh, holy water. Now here's something interesting. When you have holy water, you can combine it with crossbow bolts. Or you can combine it with elixirs to make holy elixirs. It can also be used as a weapon unto itself. You also hear a lot of exceptionally dated pop culture references. Do not be alarmed. That was the style at the time. But the game is, past this point, the game is a series of action vignettes, story missions, and exploration that continues forward in a steady, entertaining pace. Now, in the show, she hands him his ass constantly. He's supposed to be like the big bad, like one of the main villains, and she's just always whooping on him because he's always holding back because he thinks she's not worth the challenge. And now he's going to run away because he's losing again. So yeah, Buffy as a game is solid, fun, entertaining as all hell, but a little bit dated. That being said, I will not say it's bad at all, like in any way, shape, or form. It is not in any way a bad game. It is a game that is a very real product of its time, and in a lot of ways, a representation of how things were in this era. If there's one thing that the game never. As I was going to say, if there's one thing I can say about the game, it's that it is not an easy game, even on the lowest difficulty. And much of that has more to do with the game's inherent nature and difficulty in its combat, in my opinion. Here we go. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. I have an elixir and I have holy water. So, if I choose to combine those two together, I get a holy elixir. Which means I can now drink and instantly restore myself to near full health. It also gives me a huge boost. Ooh, another health crystal. Good. Now here is where the game wants you to bust out the crossbow. Problem is, the crossbow is not a good weapon when you're facing an enemy in this scenario, because it's not going to work. But what they don't tell you in the game is you can literally auto-target him and then just bammo, he's dead. So that's one of the cases where the game doesn't really give you a solid indication of what your objective is. But, not complaining. But the crossbow, especially when you've created either hellfire or... There. Now, for me, the thing I'm always thinking is, I would think my next objective would be here, but the game will not let you go into it. And if you move the camera, it's just empty space, so there's no point to it. So the question becomes, what are you supposed to do now? I'd always assumed your job was to get up to that access point above and go from there. if that's where you're supposed to go is right there, and then you see that pole and you realize, oh, we have to do more platforming, don't we? Yes, we do. Not to say that the game is bad, but it did have faults, and one of those faults being it really needed more clear indicators as to what it was doing. One of the running jokes I used to have is that games like Buffy are why the pathways are painted yellow in modern games. I do think that the actual sequel was was not a better or worse game in general. I do feel like the sequel was, for lack of a better term more, what's the word? Yep. Yep. But I think like the best example I can think of is like the game's lack of clear direction at times is one of its biggest hindrances. Once you once you figure out where most of the pathing goes and what to look for, it's easy enough to navigate. Ooh, that sounds like a reasonable plan to me. I do really miss games like this sometimes. If only be. Guess I'm gonna be going back down there some point if I want whatever that crystal thing was. So hey, let's see what we can figure out. Damn it. Yeah, I think I've wasted enough bolts for today. Fido from hell, literally. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, one of the good things that this game did do, though, is that it absolutely gives you a ton of updates, upgrades, and power ups if you are willing to search for them. The irony is, most of them do. Now, the big thing about the vampires in Buffy were you couldn't kill them with regular means, guns, bullets, all that kind of stuff. Completely irrelevant. Not going to work. But if you were in possession of, say, if you were in possession of, say, a stake, fire, or anything like that, that would do the job. She actually makes a point in one of the first initial episodes where she no, get off me. Alright, she's done. And you're done. But yeah, like, she makes a point in one of the early episodes, I think like the first or second, when they're dealing with one of the first big bads, one of the Master's lieutenants. And he actually, Xander is with her at the time, and he asks, what can you do to kill a vampire? And she says, holy water, stake through the heart, decapitation. And he says, you've done some beheading in your time? He's like, yeah. Yeah. Once cut a big old linebacker's head off with an X-Acto knife. I love I love the reaction where he's like, you're not feeling this, are you? And he's like, actually, no. He's like, I kind of find it comforting. All right, so they're dead. But she's like, you're not really loving this conversation, are you? And he's like, actually, I find it kind of comforting. And I'm just thinking, oh, you are all a cavalcade of psychos and losers, aren't you? Handy dandy keys. Okay, we'll do that. Power restored. Oh man. Bad doggy. Now the dogs can be really deadly because they can actually do a lot of damage if they get the opportunity to attack. If you don't let them attack though, you can just stun lock them into oblivion. So they're not that big of a threat until they can gang up on you and get you in bigger numbers. But beyond that, yeah, you can usually handle them. This ugly freak show again. Yeah, like fighting him is. Yeah, like fighting him is a pointless endeavor. You can't really hurt him. He's too powerful right now. But thankfully, he is incredibly slow. And if you get going fast enough, you can just outrun him. Oh, one thing you can do to kill a vampire is like massive physical, just complete deconstruction. Like if you literally throw a vampire into a train, the impact just evaporates them. They just completely tear themselves apart. See what I mean? They get hit by the train, it instantly evaporates them because, like, I don't care how freaking immortal you imagine yourself to be, getting hit by a train is death. That is not me being. And they get out of the way, damn it. Yeah. It's notable that each section in the game. Bye. But yeah, the game is lacking any other description. A perfect encapsulation of the franchise in video game form. Like, I don't know that there was ever any other games that came close to being as good as this. But I definitely love the fact that the game knew exactly what it was trying to be and didn't hide from that. So, yeah. Apparently, he's just an idiot. I mean, I'm not complaining, but yeah. Apparently, that dude's just stupid. Now, I gotta try and remember where I go from here. I also gotta try and make sure the train doesn't run me down this time. I think you can hide here and the train will pass you. Yeah, you're safe. And I don't recall what the next part of the process was because it's been a while. Hmm. So what? I'm missing part of this process. I know I am. I know I'm missing something here. Ah, gotta go down this way now. To be fair, the second game, Chaos Bleeds, I think is what they called it, was actually much. Oh. Here. You want to go for a ride? You ever wonder about the vampire henchman ethic? It's like, seriously, you're willing to get killed again just for your boss? I mean, I've heard of some incredible loyalty, but that just strikes me as dumb. And this is the way we stunlock the doggo. Always good to keep a couple of dozen elixirs on hand. That's for dang sure. Huh, that looks like another elixir. Nah, can't get up there apparently. Well, come on, get up. Okay, so if you're maxed out on potions, you can do one of two things. You can combine whatever holy water you have with existing supplies, to create new weapons, or you can take a potion right then and there to rejuvenate you and get and heal you back up from any damage you've taken. That being yeah, I very much doubt it. I do think that the game would have been much better if they had been more focused on. I think it would have been much better if they'd kept the game more focused on singular aspects like the mild exploration and the combat and taken less of the platforming, because I think the platforming just slows the game's pacing way too much. For speed, I'm sometimes willing to trade life for speed. I suppose that would make sense, would it not? Alright. So I'm going to pause it here. This video ran longer than I anticipated. Having a little bit too much fun. Yeah. Now the game does auto save per between levels. So every time you move to a level it auto saves. So you can continue here, but there is no manual saving naturally. Still, like I said, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series is absolutely fantastic. Is one of the better games in the early original Xbox franchise. And unfortunately, like it's one of those game series that when the show died, it died. Like I haven't seen anything relating to Buffy in a decade or more. So it is what it is. But if you have an Xbox 360 or original Xbox, Or I think it works on Xbox One too. And if you have one of the original platforms, this and Chaos Bleeds are both backwards compatible. So check it out. Anyway, this is a Solo Gamer calling it a night. Catch you later. Bye.